Welcome to the Empowering Industry Podcast, a production from Empowering Pumps and Equipment as the voice of the pump and related equipment industry. Barbara, I am so excited to introduce you to my audience here on the Empowering Industry Podcast. Thank you for being here. I'm just excited to have this conversation with you.
Well, I am
So,
super excited to be here, Charli. Thank you so much for inviting me.
yeah, so let's start with, letting everybody know who you are, what you're up to, what you do for your day job, and we'll get into a lot of stuff, but let's start with you.
Okay, I am a life and holistic leadership coach and coach trainer. I'm the founder and CEO of the Deeper Leader Institute for Personal and Professional Development. It is an accredited coaching certification institute. I'm an author, I'm a speaker, and I do all of that by night. By day, I'm an elementary school principal. I have 26 years of leadership. Well, I've been in education for 26 years. 21 of them actually being in active leadership roles as an assistant principal, a principal, and assistant superintendent. And now I am the principal of a turnaround school. So that is what I do by day. And I empower men and women in leadership by night.
That's amazing. So she's empowering everybody, both kids and adults here.
Yes.
Well, I am curious though, because you got a full time job. You're leading others in that. What made you want to create Deeper and all of the teachings around that? What is that story?
Well, of course, most of what we do is born out of our own place of healing or our own place of passion. And about 6 years ago, I was literally tapped on the shoulder and told, your services are no longer needed in this position. We need you over there. Well, Charli, that was not necessarily on my list of climbing the ladder.
Right.
And then before I could wrap my mind around what was happening in my career, I found out that I was up against some long-term infidelity in my marriage. So the two things that I most readily identified with were basically stripped away. But it led me on a path to me. Barbara was somewhere in the middle, but I didn't really know who she was. But I knew enough about her that I wanted to get to know her. Sometimes even if I had to depend on who other people told me she was. So that kind of started the journey. And I had always had on my list to write a book. And really, the book started off as an article. As I was going through this transition, I was really asking myself, we tend to, when we go through trauma, we tend to look outward and we tend to blame everybody who was engaged or involved. But I went inward. I have a pretty reflective personality anyway. I tend to go inside, and I started asking myself, what was in you that made you accept less than what you wanted? So I started pulling out some of those old dreams and hopes that I'd had for, over 20 years that I was married and in that career. And I found these seven starts to articles, and I had dates on them then that I wanted them to be published. Well, it had been 7 years earlier, and I had just
Wow.
been letting them sit. So I pulled out one article and I said, okay, I need some help. I really kind of needed somebody to hold my hand through the process. I didn't know how to publish an article. I didn't even know how to really put one together. So I hired a writing coach. And as we were going through this one article, the word deeper kept coming up. And I said, why does that word, you know how you're looking at something and that a word just jumps off the
Yes.
page? I said, why does that word keep popping up? Well, deeper actually turned into a book ultimately. It's always deeper, 6 steps to achieving perpetual success. And deeper is actually a framework that I now use with my clients, my coaching clients, that stands for decide what you want. It really means to get clear, get some clarity about what you want. What's your vision for your life? Examine your life. What practices or processes do you already have in place that are impeding your progress? Eliminate the barriers. So after you find out what's been blocking you, girl, get rid of it.
Yes.
Get rid of it. come up with a plan of action. That means be intentional in going after what you said you wanted. Evaluate your progress and then realize your results. So I started in that process just kind of applying that to my own life. And I started it with my own personal goals, but then I started using it at work. When things were awry at work, I would stop literally at times and say, okay, what do you want? Decide what you want, get clear about what you want so that you're able to lead other people in that process. I had already become a certified John Maxwell certified life and leadership coach. So I started using some of the stuff. I went back to that, all of that stuff about self leadership and understanding how leading yourself before you're able to lead other people. And it just started to merge. And I think you and I had a previous conversation, and I said, as leaders started to come to me, what I started learning was it wasn't their leadership positions that they were having an issue with. It was really what was happening in their life. So I started using that deeper framework with them. I use it with my coaches, and then any of the people that are coming to me for help. How do I get unstuck? How do I get the results that I'm looking for? Whether it's cleaning out your closet or coming up with a strategic plan for a school or an organization. So I've been able to use that to help.
Well, I think there's so much there. There's so much, and I relate to you so much because I felt like when I went to John Maxwell's event,
Uh-huh.
it really did set me on another path of, I was going there to be a leader. I need to learn all these things on how to be a leader. And what I learned was that I was standing in my way with
Yes.
all of these negative thoughts, and
Yes.
that sets you into learning about yourself. And I think
Mhm.
that's how you can accomplish the goals. And you mentioned something about what's standing in my way, that
Mhm.
is or what is it that is allowed all this to happen, what has allowed me to not go for these things. I mean, I remember standing in the lobby waiting to get my book signed by John, and I realized in that moment that the Empowering Women Conference, I have
Mhm.
booked the small room. Where if I had kept that small room, there wouldn't have been enough room for the
Yes.
people that signed up. But you couldn't see yourself at that
That's
next
it.
level.
That's it.
So how do you I know from my own journey, it took a while, it took time.
Mhm.
But what's the kind of that first step when people realize, I want to improve myself? What have you seen? What do people normally kind of do? What do you need to look for?
You know what? My very first client. You know how you start this business, and sometimes you're on one path, but a lot of times the people who seek you out will tell you what you're supposed to be doing. So I had this one client who she was beasting it out. She was killing it in her professional life. She was an entrepreneur. She had established these businesses, but she came to me almost in tears saying, I know something has got to change. Something's got to happen because she wasn't being fulfilled. She didn't feel fulfilled. Uh, then she had all of this stuff that was going on in her home. So uh, the first thing that I did was I referred her to a marriage counselor. I gave her the name of a marriage counselor. And then I said, well, you come back over here into my coaching program so we can just focus on you. So what I had to do with her was I did not allow her to point fingers. I did not allow her to say, well, he did and he did this and he did that. No, what did you do? What's How can you take your power back from the situation? So a lot of people, when they come to me, it's almost like they don't know what's wrong. They don't know where they are. And that's kind of how we are when we come to the end of ourselves. That's exactly where I was when I went through the divorce and the technical demotion. That's where I was. What am I supposed to be doing now? Like, who am I without this stuff? And that's exactly where that client was. And I'm finding that that is a pattern. And if you just listen to the people, you can hear the anxiety in their voices like, oh my gosh, I know I'm supposed to be doing something. There's this something bigger that they feel like they're supposed to be doing that they just cannot get to. So that's typically, I listen to what's not being said. I watch their body language. And sometimes I'll just say, let's just stop. Take a deep breath and stand where your feet are because the anxiety comes from looking too far ahead or focusing on the past. because there's really nothing wrong in this moment. If you think about it, nothing's happening right now, but I'm sitting in this chair and I'm talking to Charli. There's nothing.
That is such good advice. I mean, I think that that's where we start getting into that, like, pressure is like, I'm not going to, be that person that I think that I should be, or I'm not
Mhm.
going to get that promotion, or whatever it is that you're not focused on. Okay, what can I do today to be the best self that I can be in order, or the best worker I can be, whatever it is, to get that goal that you're wanting.
Absolutely.
So going within.
And I had that pressure of, because I was married for 20 years. I always say that when you get married, you say the two became one. Well, that's kind of how I felt about my marriage, me, and my career. The three became one. So I had been in both of them the same amount of time, 20 years. And so as I started to heal and really see what I was supposed to be doing and connect to my purpose, um, I realized that I had the anxiety of, oh my gosh, I've lost 20 years. Until I was talking to my cousin one day, and she said, you didn't lose 20 years. You invested 20 years. And that felt a whole lot different from, oh my gosh, I've lost 20 years, in that it took those 20 years to develop the character. You wouldn't be able to stand in your authority in this seat if you didn't go through the 20 years. All of that 20 years, because we put everything on a timetable. It's got to happen in 10 years. In my mind, when I graduated from college, I was gonna teach for 5 years, open up my own school, and then I was just gonna be, the guru educator. Well, I'm in my 26th year of education. But if I did not, when I went through the trauma of losing the position because of all of that, I was tied to that career and status and all of that. If I had not made that move was really repositioning me for a purpose. And now I'm not bound by having to be quiet, just say this, say that, or living up to other people's expectations. I can come out and fully be who I was created to be. And then,
Yeah, I think that's a good point too. Is that understanding your values and what it means to you. That was a kind of a program that I went through, and that was shocking to me. Of like, you know what, I'm not going to take that speaking position or that opportunity over there because it's not in line with what I'm trying to accomplish here. And it just gave you that freedom to do that. It, I know, we have a lot of engineers, operators, maintenance
Mhm,
people that listen
mhm,
to our podcast. But what are they trying to achieve?
right,
That's and if it is in line, if that work that they're doing is in line for that, then say yes. And if it's not,
right.
then it's easy to say no at that point. But I didn't even know what my values were at that point. You had to kind of like re-look at it. Do you feel like any of yours changed when you went through that process?
Oh, absolutely. Like there there are certain things that I would take then that I would not even look at twice. Actually, somebody called me and asked, hey, there's a superintendent position open in this county. Are you planning to put your name in? And Charli, at one time, that was the ultimate, like that is what I wanted. I went into education to get to the top.
That's right.
And that was my goal. And I said, when they asked that question, it's so funny. I asked, no, because I said, no, because they're going to try to shut down my social media. Because
I'm building something here. That's
yeah,
right.
there's a freedom that comes with um, getting outside of the box. And that's kind of what I feel like. And it's not just education, it's every career. Once you join yourself to a company or system, an organization, it's only natural that you take on their vision. And sometimes we take on their vision and we lose the vision that we have for ourselves. And the two can coexist. So you find yourself in sometimes an unhealthy entanglement with your job. And I did a video on you might be in a toxic relationship with your job if, and I listed 5 things. So there's sometimes you can be so gung ho about accomplishing their vision when it's not as important to you as you
Yeah,
think
and
it
you're
is.
not doing a good job at it either. If it's not in alignment with you,
Right,
you're not. You may feel like you're doing a good job, but
right.
you're just stressed. Is basically what
You're just
you
stressed.
know.
And
Yeah,
what you do is you hook yourself to a false sense of purpose. And that's
yeah,
really easy to do when you're in a service industry because service is inherent in what you do. So serving children, you feel like I'm doing the right thing. Yes, this is purposeful work, but is it your purpose?
yeah. Oh, that's good stuff right there. So one of the things you mentioned the videos that you've been doing, and I just thought I had to mention this because it really touched me, and some of the things that I am going through with work life balance and all of that,
Mhm.
you look for things that are going to inspire you. And you're definitely one of those for me. But you talked about the lessons for leaders and kind of giving these lessons out there, that we can learn from. So you are a leader and now you are teaching other leaders, which is
Mhm.
wonderful because I never want a leader to feel like they're alone. And
Absolutely.
that's because leaders have to be with other leaders because they get each other.
Absolutely.
Uh, so so let's just, tell us a little bit about that. What are some lessons for our leaders out there that you can share?
Well, one of the things, and I talked about this earlier, and I have, of course, lots of friends who are doing the same thing that I do as principals. And one of the things that COVID did, I always call it, I think I'm going to write an article called "What COVID Uncovered."
Yes.
It uncovered a lot of, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? And it's struggling with, uh, okay, I'm in education, it's a noble profession, but why don't I want to do it? And feeling guilty because you don't want to do it. Instead of not necessarily having in your head that you don't want to do it, but shifting how you engage with it. Because what we do in our jobs is we make our jobs a part of our identity, and that when you no longer want to do that thing, it's like you're separating from yourself. How do you do that without tearing, without somebody getting hurt? And I actually remember almost in a moment when I came to the understanding that, oh, I'm separate from this. I'm different from this thing. There's other work that I'm supposed to be doing. There are other people um, uh, who would value what I have to say. And so one of the lessons that I give to leaders is, instead of looking up to go up the ladder, start looking within, because the moment you start to look within, you are starting to expand your leadership capacity. As I came to understand me, I interact so differently with the people that I lead. And I know sometimes they're looking at me like, who is this woman? She was so different before, but I'm clear about what I want in the organization, and I have clear steps to get there. And they all know that Dr. Swinney is going to come with, is it clear? Is it consistency? And is there continuity? So everything has to be aligned. So one of the things that, again, one of the things that I feel like one of the most valuable lessons for leaders is continue to explore yourself. This year, my goal was to operate in the very purpose of leadership, which is to inspire action and to develop other leaders. So I had to start asking myself, because once you exhaust all of everything that you know about the position, where do you go next? It's like, after I get rich, now what? You don't just sit around with the money. How do I help other people? So I started looking around, what action am I inspiring? I always tell them to ask, if this is the purpose, what action are you inspiring? And then how are you developing your people? So I actually started doing all of my John Maxwell classes with my team. And then after I would do it with my team, I would charge them to go and do it with other teams, because I feel like leadership should be, like I call it, network marketing. Like, you
Mhm.
see that little man and then you see all of these different connections. That's the way it should look. It should look like a whole lot of people growing with you being the source of it. So I always try to get them focused on, after you clean yourself up, then, help other people shower, basically.
Well, I want to ask you a little bit. This is a personal question for
Uh-huh.
me as a leader, and you being a woman of faith, and it
Yes,
comes through in your teaching.
yes.
How do you? Um, Is that one of your values that you listed out as far as like, I'm going to work here and this and faith is going to be a part of what I share? Or is it just come natural because that's who you are? I'm just curious about that. I always want to let people know it from me because I am a woman of faith and I
Mhm.
honestly, I don't know how people can, make it without that knowing, who created them and they are worthy. And I want to share that with others. Well, how do you do that with business?
So that's a very interesting question, because with all of the separation of church and school, so I was basically raised by education, basically as far as leadership and all of that. So I was always taught, you don't talk about God, don't talk about your faith. But after I went through the trauma
Hmm.
of all of the stuff that happened to me, like you said, Charli, I don't see how you can do it without it. And I don't necessarily go in and say, I'm a woman of faith, I believe in God, and this is how it's going to work. But those, when I talk, it just comes out.
Mhm.
You can't do it without God. I've tried it. I promise you. I've tried all different ways, and it does not come together the way it does when you surrender it all to God. So I am a woman of faith, and those that are, if you're around me long enough, then that comes out. I can't help it. I can't
I
hide
think
it.
it comes out immediately, and so it's that joy of living and getting through something like we've talked about it a couple of times now.
Yeah.
Just it's not that it's the hope and that that there is something better for you and that you can serve others and let them know there's something better for them, and that gets
Absolutely.
you up every day. Like that is something you can
Absolutely.
work for.
Well,
Yeah.
it is understanding that we don't have the capacity to understand all of this stuff. So just like I was frantic about the 20 years that I lost, well, for God, it's all in one pot. Like it's just all in here. It's all happening for my good. But I thought, you get this school, you work for 5 years, and then you start your own business. I had my own timeline when he knows no time or distance.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we
And
live in
when
our
we,
own.
yeah, and we'd have I just say, it's just this story, right? Your journey and what would we have to share if we didn't have things, that happened, these challenges that we've overcome.
Right.
I think that, that he did give us this hard thing that we had to get through so that we are stronger. I think it's just a kind of this constant building to allow us to be those leaders that can share and build up people. Because then you have the confidence. You're like, I know for certain that this works better than that.
Yeah. And then you speak to that confidence I've had after I was moved from that position and the trauma. And it is indeed trauma when you are a professional woman whose eye is on the sparrow, so to speak.
Mhm.
Um, uh, when I have to have somebody move in the organization, like we're going through a whole reorg now, and they are frantic about moving. And I say to them, listen, I am the poster child for having to make an involuntary move. Trust me, it's for your good. It's going to be okay. And and that helps them kind of take a seat and sit back a little bit and say, okay, she knows what she's doing. She's been through this. She's proven. And I always say that, and I think I said this earlier, our lives, particularly when you're coaching and when you're leading, our lives are professional development for what we do for women.
Yeah, and I think that we have to figure it out for ourselves in order to lead people, and there's always something in there that we hadn't quite figured out, and so we're working on that as we're leading others. And I think that it's important that we do that. So we, all that talk, and I think John Maxwell definitely talked about it, but that you do have to. The hardest person to lead is yourself, and
Absolutely.
the part of that is because it changes and there's a different thing you got to work on today, and
Right.
figuring out what is not working in my personal life that
Mm-hmm.
is affecting my work, because that
Mm-hmm.
is 100%. If you're not kind of doing well at work like you think that you should, there may
Mm-hmm.
be something that has nothing to do with work, your
Absolutely.
mindset, your family life, whatever it is that can be affecting that. So, I could talk about this kind of stuff all day because I love it. And I think
Yes.
we really can help people. But, what you're doing now with the book and kind of your teachings, tell us how people can get involved with what you're doing.
Absolutely. So I just published the book, Deeper Women Teach, and the purpose for the whole Deeper brand has kind of taken off, and I call it my baby has grown up. But it's really a book of 8 women sharing their stories, because when I was going through all of my stuff, I did not have a circle of women who were willing to share their traumas, just because of the nature of our position, very, very conservative and private. But after I started hearing these stories from women in leadership, I didn't feel so alone. So I decided that I'm going to make it my goal to establish a platform for women to share their stories, for women in leadership to share their stories. But I don't want them to just share their stories. I want to make sure they're healed from their stories and that they're able to provide strategies for other women as they go through these things. So when I wrote my first book, It's Always Deeper, I had the first Deeper Women Speak conference. And then that kind of led to last year we did Deeper Women Lead. And then we wrote the book, Deeper Women Teach, and Deeper Women Lead. The annual conference will be coming up again in November. So if you'd like to get involved, I would love for you to follow me on social media. I'll be posting and marketing there at B Swinney Inc., as well as you can go to our website, thedeeperleaderinstitute.org, and sign up for a discovery call, or just watch the page for our marketing material that will be coming through there. I also do, as a part of the Deeper Leader Institute, we have professional learning programs. We have our Leadership 101 program for aspiring leaders. We have a Leadership 2.0 program for experienced and evolving leaders. And then our 3.0 program it's our signature program, and that's our coaching certification program. So you can come through for people like me and you, Charli, who have been doing this. I can help you get credentialed so you can get your certification as a leadership coach. We also have other endorsements there, but I'm excited that that was on my list this year to become an accredited institute, and we were able to do that. So I'm excited about all of the things that we have going on. I also do.
Yeah, and yeah, well, I was going to say there's so much wrapped up in there as far as resources, but the main thing is, sharing those stories to teach other women, sharing those stories to teach other leaders in general. You have that now in resources that you can give, and allowing people to not only share their story, but then, okay, now let me sign you up to teach other people. And you're certified to do that. Okay.
Absolutely. So that's absolutely the point. We also do outside of the leadership classes it's more of your John Maxwell stuff. So I in my head, John Maxwell, I'm coming for you. That's
there you go.
The kind of platform I'd like to have. And then on the personal side, we do have personal group coaching classes that we do. I also decided to do a coach to speak class, because once people start opening their coaching businesses, then you're going to have to go out and speak about your coaching business. So we started a coach to speak program, and then there is the life coaching certification under the Deeper Women coach program. So I'm excited about all of that. This little doozy right here, I'm so excited to share this. It has all kinds of stories in it. I'm super excited and proud of the women. For some of them, it was their first time writing, and I was just excited to be able to give them a platform or give them an opportunity to write. So,
well, I love it, and I think that's exactly what you're doing. You are, giving people that platform, empowering them. I like that word, empowering them to be who they want to be, and I just love it. And I think I'm just thankful that you said yes to doing this and putting this together for all of us. So thank you for being here with me today, Dr. Barbara Swinney, y'all.
And I want to say this to you, Charlie. You said earlier, kind of once you know your value, you know who to hook up with and who not to hook up with. There are lots of opportunities to go out there and speak, and a lot of them I just let them, pass. But I did apply for your conference in Chicago, and I
Yes, I'm so excited.
yes, and I just got my notification, and I text one of my friends and said they said yes. So I'm super excited about that, and I can't wait to see you and all of the other empowering women in Chicago.
Oh, it's going to be a blast. We're going
Yeah,
up there, soon and checking out the place, and you know, it's going to be that moment where you bring all those leaders together, they learn from each other, but then they have a network after that. And
yeah,
I think that is what you're doing, what we're doing, common goals
yeah.
definitely align. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Absolutely love talking to you.